5 months, more than 100 hours, and hundreds of entrepreneurs, thinkers, and wealth creators in this country brought onto a platform to discuss what's happened and what we need to do now. We do this in partnership with Business World, and joining us now on the broadcast, we have Hrishikesh Kumar. He's founder and CEO of Extra Living. Rohit Shah, CEO and co-founder of Hemp Horizons. Pradeep Basu, founder of Satshore. Ramya Chatterjee, CEO of Cybernetics. And Dr. Anurag Batra, as always, Chairman and Editor-in-Chief of Business World, joining us. Dr. Batra, please set up the conversation for us.
Thank you, Rishabh, for doing this for such a long time and making sure that the business community, the entrepreneurship ecosystem, and people who are job creators and wealth creators can contribute to making sure that the economy stays strong and their voices are heard, and hopefully policymakers take note of it and make sure that the right environment and right policy is created for this new abnormal. Let me start by asking Hrishikesh Kumar. Hrishikesh, how have been the last 7 months? What has happened to your business, and how do you see the business going forward?
Like for everyone, for us also, it was a big shock when we got to know about the lockdown in March. We are into preventive healthcare. We have fitness centers, then we do events in collaboration with the Maharashtra government and few other organizations. So our entire revenue dropped to zero instantly, and we didn't have any other line of business. So for the first 3-4 weeks, we were puzzled. We didn't know what to do. And then after that, we started innovating, thinking of online medium. So revenue-wise, we faced a huge loss in the first few months, but we had to innovate. We had to come out with different kind of solutions by which we can reach out to people at home, solve their issues. And health sector is something which is very critical. And if you have to improve your immunity, this is the right way to do it. The right kind of exercise, movement, reaching out to kids. So that has been something that we have been doing. But even then, the impact that was there for the first 4-5 months is something which will take a long time for us to recover. So it was difficult, but I would say, like everyone else, my fellow entrepreneurs would agree to it. We have to just keep going, and we have to keep moving, and that is the way to do.
Thank you so much, Hrishikesh. Yeah. Hrishikesh, we're doing a lot of things through compulsion. They're not necessarily our choice. Tell us, when you see your clients, your customers who are interested in their own fitness, in their own health and immunity, what is the behavior change you kind of observed in them?
So it is, whatever habits and lifestyle that we have right now is something that we have inculcate over a period of time. And this is something which goes, any child picks it up when he's born till 12, and that is the age where they pick it up. And over a period of time, it just becomes very difficult to change your habits and lifestyle. So we face a lot of issues in changing habits. That is the reason why we started working with kids to make sure that they start understanding the value of nutrition, the value of movement competencies. And there we are seeing a huge improvement. Initially we were puzzled as in how will kids listen to our cues when we are doing an online session. But they are doing relatively well. And when we are teaching them for the first time, they take it just as anything else they are learning for the first time. But yes, when they're
minded about it, they're curious about it, and
very true.
That sense of curiosity and openness kind of enables learning and adoption.
Right.
I also want to know from you, if in March you were at 100 rupees of revenue, where are you today in October? Are you at 70, 80? Are you at 100?
No. We are right now at roughly around 30, and I think the next 90 days is something which will help us. The vibe is changing, and that is something which I wanted to share. The entire negativity which was there, that is changing bit by bit, and people are seeing that they're getting that confidence that yes, with the right kind of norms in a standard fitness center, they can come work out. They are open to trying out online sessions. They're open to listening to people like us. Otherwise, everyone thinks that they know everything about health and fitness. So that is something which is improving. So right now, it is improving. I would say the next 90 days to 180 days is something which will help us really well. And the initiative by the government is also very promising. They're inculcating health and fitness in schools. They're talking more about immunity. They're inviting all the fitness professionals for a panel. So the entire vibe is changing nationally.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Our Prime Minister is focused on yoga, he's focused on Indian techniques of well-being, and
True.
he focused on fitter India. So clearly, what's happening right now in the near and immediate term may not look that bright, but in the medium and long term, I think it's for the better, and hopefully your industry will do much better than what it has done in the last 7 months. Ramya, let me
Very
come
true.
to you. You're in an industry that involves learning, that involves technology. Both have seen an uptake in large numbers over the last 7 months. Give us a sense of how your business has been and what kind of numbers you're doing.
Okay, thanks for the question. So let me first tell you, I represent a company called Cybernetics. We are into perceptual AI products and platform catering to major two vertical. One is the education and the enterprise. In education, we try to enhance the learning outcome, and in enterprise phase, we try to solve the problem of enhancing, meeting room productivity through our technology. We're into essentially in a deep tech industry. So being a technology company and serving the education as industry, these two, I mean, healthcare and education, these two are recession proof. Okay, so in our sector also, if I talk about the in-classroom technology deployment, that has come down because the schools were closed. At the same time, we have got a platform for blended learning. So that business has got better traction because currently everything is happening from teaching from home and learning from home. So we have got products and technology and solutions to cater those segment of the customer. So we got a very decent traction. And we are probably, one of the, very rare Indian technology company in this space who actually produce and innovate technology, and we export across various countries. Okay, so in the export market, a different part of the globe has reacted a little differently. Okay, so if I talk about
The
India,
global pandemic, the economies are impacted there. The pace
Yes.
capabilities of customers are impacted.
Yes.
Value
Yeah.
chains are disrupted. So clearly, we are in this together, so to say.
Yes, of course. I mean, the sign of degrowth is almost uniform across the globe. However, depends which industry you're catering. I mean, anyone who is serving that, probably the aviation or the transport and tourism industry, they are badly impacted. Those who are actually catering to the recession-proof industries like education or healthcare, their downfall is not that much steep. So overall, the phase was little slow for all of us, but currently things are happening at much more higher pace thanks to Indian government. A whole lot of investments are happening in the education segment, and a whole lot of government ICT projects are coming up. So things are back in track for us.
Thank you so much, Ramya. I asked Rishikesh to get a sense of where the economy is. You individuals, your businesses really make up the GDP. They make up the numbers that our economy is so proud of. We're almost a 2 trillion economy before COVID. We've shrunk, but I have no doubt over the next 18 to 24 months, we'll be bigger than 2 trillion. And I'm not doing daydreaming. I have data. You can see the green shoots of the economy. But let me ask you, if you were in Mars at 100, where are you in October, Ramya?
Okay. Definitely March, April, that phase was bad for all of us. But right now, if we talk about, let's divide into two parts, H1 of this financial year and H2 of this financial year.
Okay.
I believe in H2, we'll be doing 3x as compared to H1. That's a better way of answering this question.
Fantastic. So things are picking up. April, May, June were universally bad for most sectors, even the sectors that are naturally getting benefited from COVID. Like healthcare, you would think that healthcare is doing very well. But the fact is, apart from COVID, all other treatments have come to a halt. The healthcare industry, health is itself in very precarious shape. The organized healthcare industry lost more than $2.5 billion. And if you count the GPs, the neighborhood SMEs in healthcare, the general practitioner, the clinic, then another 500 million. So in the last 7 months, the Indian healthcare industry has lost close to $3 billion. So, you may think healthcare is doing well, but not necessarily. Coming to Rohit Shah, Rohit, you heard Ramya, you heard Rishikesh, and give us a sense of where your business is headed What is the pivot you've done in the last 7 months, and what kind of numbers you're doing? Rohit?
Sure. Thank you for the question. So we are a company, we are manufacturers for Ayurvedic products. And, luckily for us, COVID gave us the, mindset for people to understand what natural living, what plant-based living or natural product remedies are. So at least for us, we saw a surge in our online sales and, new people discovering, new audience discovering our products and starting to incorporate in their daily lives. Why? Because, they are directly related towards immunity boosting, anti-inflammatory, and all the things that people are actually talking about these days. In terms of the growth, since March up until today, we have had a 3x growth in terms of our revenues. And this was purely because of people becoming more and more aware of what they should consume.
Okay. And Rohit, give us a sense of where do you see your company in 6 to 12 months? And by that corollary, where do you see the industry? Do you see the industry that you represent growing post-COVID because of the consciousness that we've acquired during COVID times?
100%. I think, what we have seen in the past 7 months is, more and more brands selling similar products made with the hemp seed are coming to life. And us as manufacturers are able to, give them the liberty to brand the product and us taking care of the back end, the manufacturing and the licensing aspects. So moving forward, the next 12 months, we see, a significant shift in the audience mindset going towards hemp-based products, educational products, edible products, which are Ayurvedic based, licensed, and naturally good for the body.
Okay, Rohit, we'll come back to you. The hemp world in India is growing. The product usage and product application is going right from clothes to medicines. And, I'm not a doctor, so I won't comment on its medicinal use or what it can do to well-being. But yes, the usage of hemp as an industrial component is growing, or as a component in certain products is growing. Prateep, you heard Rohit, Ramya, and Rishikesh tell us about their company and their sectors. Give us a sense of trends in your sector and what's happened to your company in the last 7 months. Prateep Basu.
Thank you, Anurag. So, Satshar, first let me give a quick background of Satshar. So, we are a deep tech space applications company based out of Bangalore and servicing the financial services and public sector across two industry verticals, agriculture and infrastructure. When COVID happened, just like every where there was confusion, there was a lot of uncertainty of what will happen to the business. So I have a similar kind of experience as mentioned by Ramya, Rishikesh, that the first half of the year, definitely if we were at 1, we were supposed to be at 2, but we kind of reached at 1. But we have seen a very steady recovery, primarily driven by the agriculture sector, which is where we focus more and more, because the area in which we work, it's one of the components of the larger digitization aspect, and agriculture is one such sector which has that need, which was the only sector that showed positive growth amidst the COVID pandemic. And that's where whatever digital technology was supposedly good to have, it became a must-have. So there was a behavioral change, a mindset change. So while we did face a lot of troubles in the others industry vertical like infrastructure, energy, etc., but we saw very positive growth in our agriculture financial services business, and I see that improving over the next 12 to 18 months as well, because our H2 from 1 would be about 5. So that much amount of growth we are seeing here, and that's also led by a lot of reforms in the farm sector that the government has
Farm to
initiated.
fork, one common market. And I think if the GDP has to grow, of course the services has to grow, manufacturing. But the one sector that can grow and again help the bottom of the pyramid, help the farmers, is the growth of the agri sector. Agri-tech is growing. We need to build more, cold stores, because as you know, a lot of our food gets wasted even before it reaches the mandis or the end consumer. So just if we are able to focus on what we produce, and the quality of what we produce. For example, we are in some low-end produce in terms of wheat, in terms of grains, in terms of paddy. We have to go up the value chain. And then through help in marketing, in go-to-market, I think we can really help farmers, and by that help the Bharat and make India and Bharat both Atmanirbhar. Let me go back again to Rishikesh. Rishikesh, health and fitness have always been very important, but the consciousness post-COVID has brought health and fitness forefront. More people are cycling because it's very healthy. More people are doing in-house physical activity or build small gyms or brought equipment. People are doing
Right.
yoga. Now, when you look at this well-being industry, which encompasses yoga, gymnastics, Zumba,
Right. Right.
gyms, tell us a sense of the growth this industry is seeing. And if I talk to you in 2 years from now, where would this industry be in terms of size of the industry?
So I see a huge growth in this sector right now, primarily because of new people trying out new things. Even now, not more than 5% of our population does anything around health and fitness. They primarily depend on medical treatment for anything. Now, when you have even another 5% adding to the consumer base, it's a huge growth. And at the same time, when you look at the talent that we have a huge number of athletes nationally, and I'm interacting with them on daily basis. So they don't have a very stable career after they complete their competitions. And what happens is they have to take some job where they are not happy. So when we have this platform, and we Indians are very fast to learn the right technique, and that is what I have seen over the last couple of months. So once we have this platform and more professionals join us, and mainstream professionals who, instead of after their B school, they don't look just at the top 2-3 sectors and invest their time and effort in this sector, there is a huge possibility of growth. And we can become the powerhouse of the globe. I mean, I feel that the COVID has opened new channels for us and for everyone else. So we are doing sessions here where we have people from Sydney, we have people from Mumbai, Delhi. So that gives us a very strong sense that if we have an online platform, we are good in technology. I mean, if we have to launch an app in 30 days, we can do that. We have that resources. We need athletes who can understand movement, nutrition. So that is what we are combining. And we see that the trend is increasing. The only thing is we need to be supported by the right kind of investors, and wherever we need some assistance from the government, if they are being done, then there is a huge growth.
Okay, Rishikesh, I'm just going to do a small interjection and a query. Yeah. When do you suspect that physical models will actually come back? Do we simply just wait for a vaccine announcement? 6 months, maybe a year?
No, I don't think so. See, I mean, vaccine definitely will take its own time, and it will be unfair for us to give a timeline.
No, I'm saying depending on when the vaccine comes out, another 6 months after that, because the rollout is going to be a challenge as well. So are we looking at virtual models per se for the better part of the next 1 year at least?
Yes, so that is what we have been doing. We have the physical model and the virtual, and there has to be a combination of both. So the physical model, definitely it has its own benefit, but I don't think so people should stick to vaccine coming in. There are norms that the government has suggested, and that is pretty safe. And the only problem is this sector is very unorganized. So there are many people who might not follow the norms. From government side, if there are some audits and all, and if everyone follows the norm, then there is definitely possibility of people working out in a very safe environment.
Okay.
And then
we all have had to get back, so it does work. Let me quickly just, Pradeep, if I can just pick your brain now, just for our viewers watching, and if you can help us understand better. When you are saying you're doing deep tech for infra and agriculture, what does that mean? Are you guys using satellite photos and AI to map out, crop production and water levels and urban density? What do you guys do?
Right. So we do all the things that you mentioned and more. Basically, we help provide information such as when to sow, at what rate crop sowing is happening, areas under different crops, the losses that can be expected mid-season, obviously the production aspect, where harvesting is happening, at what rate it is going on. So
how progressed are we? Can you just give our viewers an understanding without giving away your company secrets, but how capable are we now that from a satellite photograph, you can tell how much moisture there is in the ground, and how many acres are under which crop. How much is predictable now from satellite photography and your algorithms and your AI and all?
Right. I would say we are among the top in the world actually, and that comes with our space programs background. India has always been a leader in remote sensing. It's just that commercial companies were not existing like us before, and today they are. And you can find the applicability of it in the government policies itself, where the crop insurance policy mandates the use of satellite-based indices as proxies for claim settlement and overall administration of insurance. So that much confidence even the government has built by doing the validation over time with the agencies, both public sector, ISRO, as well as companies.
So you are saying that if there's a claim filing which farmers can do, instead of going to the local councillor who will have to physically make an estimate on terms of acreage, they can come to you and you can tell them from a satellite photograph of how much affected area there is?
Right. It's already done by most of the insurance companies and states today. For example, any event like flood, etc. happens. So what is the total area that is damaged is used as a proxy indicator to validate the claims that are coming bottoms up and make the claim settlement faster.
Okay. I was having a conversation with a couple of guys who just come out of IIT Madras and their professor, and they are the ones trying to launch the first Indian rocket. Hopefully 2021 they say. Do we have now, Pradeep Basu, an ecosystem? Because this is what everybody is talking about, that we need an ecosystem. We have ISRO, but you need then the educational ecosystem, the private sector ecosystem that is both providing the ancillary technologies and benefiting from the services. Do you guys have the options in-house within India, or do we still need foreign satellites, foreign data, foreign launches? I mean, when do you send up your own satellite, for example?
When you're speaking of ecosystem, you are giving the example of Agnikul, I guess. And, there are companies like Agnikul, Skyroot who are launching today, who are making launches. There are companies like Pixel who are making satellites, and there are companies like us who are using the data from the satellites. So there is an ecosystem which is growing very well. And just like the farm sector reforms, there is also space sector reforms which has happened, like with the formation of InSpace, which has further fueled the convergence of space technology and deep tech into different sectors that touches the lives of people.
Okay, so I'm happy to say that the ecosystem is growing, and the more that I see of you guys, and I highly encourage my editorial team to look out, because encouraging this ecosystem is everything. It can't be government simply. It has to be all players making an economic vitality out of this. If I can quickly rope in Rohit. You gave us a slightly broad understanding of what is it. So what is, in terms of products, in terms of creating an industry that you guys feel is a consumer platform for what you do? Rohit, if you can hear us.
Mr. Shah?
Rohit, hi.
Yeah.
Can you hear us? So what is the product platform? What is the logic with which you see this becoming an industry from the company that you've started?
See, for us, it was always about bringing in the natural and the Ayurvedic elements that have been long forgotten, which, our ancestors have been using. And with that premise in mind, we decided to come up with these products and bringing hemp to the market because it has all these ailments that it can treat. And there are over 1,500 formulations in the Ayurvedic scriptures that are directly related to these medicines, which can be directly related to, let's say, cancer pain, menstrual pain, pain management for your arthritis or joint pains, immunity boosting products. So these are some of the things that actually work, which have been used and has been using for the past, how many ever years, hundreds of years.
So is this a product? Is it a company, or do you see an industry developing around it?
It will definitely be an industry because if you see the world market growing, it's already a $3 trillion industry around the world. So we as a country are technically lacking behind when it comes to hemp and forming right policies for the farmers, for manufacturers, for traders, for consumers.
Okay, and of course, laws and regulations and and a cultural approach to this. Sir, Ramya Chatterjee.
Yeah.
I was talking about ecosystems. So I want to pick your mind on that before I need to take a break. When it comes to the data in terms of both your algorithms, your crunching, sensors, etc., how much of that ecosystem is still a global chain that requires the puzzle pieces of the global chains to fall into place, and how many options are you seeing available here in India? So your supply chain ecosystem mostly is then from India. How much is changing?
Okay, so this is a very interesting question and very relevant to our business also. So, as I mentioned, like we are a deep tech company who actually provides products and solutions to the education vertical to enhance the learning outcome.
Yeah.
So I'm extremely proud to be Indian, and we produce technology in India. We export it out across 80 countries. If you talk about India, smart classroom ecosystem, we are the number one player.
Okay, can you explain to me what is a smart classroom? I'm of the generation that that remembers a blackboard. What's a smart classroom?
Okay, so yeah, probably all of us, when we did our schooling, school means is chalk and talk. Teacher used to come inside the classroom.
Yeah, the whiteboard was a big upgrade. That was the innovation then.
Correct. So currently, these books have been converted into digital content. The blackboard is not there; it's interactive whiteboard. It's digital board. So you take this help of this technology and you actually teach your students. So you can use that platform, create.
Okay, so then what are you guys working on? Are you guys working on putting up the hardware, or you guys are working and putting up the software which runs on the hardware? What do you work on?
Okay, so it's actually, there are three parameters. Okay, so one is the hardware we manufacture right here in India.
You manufacture the hardware, so that yes. Smart whiteboard is manufactured by you guys.
Yeah, so smart is a generic name. The way we call photocopy as Xerox. Similarly, the smart board is also a kind of.
So I need to call it the cybernetics board. Okay.
No, you need to technically call it interactive whiteboard.
Okay, that is interactive whiteboard. Okay, got it.
Category. Okay. So smart was definitely one of the first organization who actually brought this interactive whiteboard to the global market.
I see. Okay.
So Cybernetics, we brought one very innovative technology. It's called Surface Independent Interactive Whiteboard System, which actually converts any surface. It could be wall, it could be a board, it could be a table, it could be a floor, into a touch enabled digital surface.
So is it? So how are you doing it? Are you doing it? Explain that to us, because.
Yes. So let me tell you in a very layman's language.
Are you doing it projectors and lasers? What are you doing?
So there are two ways we can achieve it. So our flagship products called IRIS, stands for Eye Like Rapid Imaging System. What it does, it is basically having an optical CMOS sensor, right? So when you need to take a kind of projection surface, so this device will actually map that projection surface. It will calibrate and convert that surface into a touch surface. Definitely, we need a kind of external computer to connect with the projector as well as with the device.
Your software is then either you have a particular kind of a pen, or your hand is able to track the hand or the finger and saying, okay, if the finger is in this position, the software is interpreting even off a projection without having to touch a physical surface. Have I got it right? Okay.
Yes, you're partially correct. So let me clarify a little bit. Coming to the core question, so it's not only hardware, it's hardware as well as the associated interactive software.
Obviously, it's without something interpreting what is happening, the hardware, the sensors are useless. Okay, so now if on a scale of 100%, how much of the parts for the stuff that you put together are available here? How much do you guys still have to import? If you're looking at 100 parts, do 80 come from India or do 80 come from abroad and you guys put them together?
So it's actually, this question cannot be given answer in black and white because there are multiple solutions in place. There are few solutions which is mostly indigenous in nature. There are certain solutions which has got certain components which is coming from outside. So over here, I actually would like to add one very important point, if you allow to do that. So as we are talking about the economic reform, so if I go to the basics of macroeconomics, we all know net export has to be increased to add value to your GDP. So currently, if you see the education ecosystem of India as a country, India is dumped with all low-cost Chinese toys inside the classroom.
Correct.
Because they are low cost. So that needs to be regulated on immediate basis. That's my appeal to the authority. In the
No, we just need to give Indian entrepreneurs a small window, and they'll be able to produce in the same low cost. It's just simple economies of scale. Once the economies of scale hit, that's all that's required. Rishikesh Kumar, you guys are going to end up representing, what you're doing. Very interesting what Rohit is doing. This is soft power, right? So do you see the market as being India? Because India is a huge market. Anybody who's the major top 10 player in India is doing very well for themselves. Or is it a training market of a product that can be taken globally?
So the problem that we are trying to solve is global, but definitely the major problem is happening in India and China. And if you look at the diabetes rate and other lifestyle disorders, that is maximum in India and China. After that you have US and few other countries. But yes, this solution is global in nature, and the solution is so simple that it can be incorporated from anywhere in the world. It is just about managing the cost.
Okay, but Rishikesh, what are you up against? I mean, are you up against people who are going to be knocking off the hardware? Are you up against, my wife has just gotten some weighing scale which has an app these days and tells me, can potentially tell me all things about myself. The new iWatch can tell me my oxygen levels as well. Are you guys up against hard tech, or is it in the end going to be a very human industry of humans training other humans?
So there has to be a very deep integration between technology and human. No matter what kind of hardware you have, unless you solve the simplest of the problem, which is around movement, you'll not be able to see a change. It is about changing the lifestyle, and that will not happen if I tell you how much calories you are eating on a daily basis and what your weight is. So this fitness industry is primarily driven towards celebrity fitness, weight loss. So those are the things which comes to people's mind, and when they think about fitness, the first thing they do is join a gym, buy a fancy gadget.
Okay.
But no one is trying to solve the problem.
Okay, so that's a service-led problem. What are the product-led issues? Are we, for example, while yoga might have gone out from here, but we are equal victims of the latest fads, from kale to quinoa and all this. Is this a product opportunity that, the traditional good eating models that we have in a largely vegetarian country, that we can pitch those as diets abroad and turn that into a product as well as a service?
Yes, so the first thing is about educating the client. So most of the time when we have people who come to us, the first thing they ask is what to eat, and they start talking about, I don't get broccoli or I don't get quinoa very often.
Everybody's talking about kale and quinoa, right? I'm trying to figure out, I'm sure we have better things in India.
So, but when you tell them about the micronutrients, and when we explain it to them that these are the things which is available in palak and other things that you get in your local market, and then they start realizing, but don't you think that the Indian diet is not very healthy? Then we have to clarify that you need to cook it in the right way and avoid few things, and avoid a lot of rice and wheat and supplement that with a lot of vegetables. So when we educate them, then it becomes simpler, and it is not about only
it is, but so what do we need? Do we need, and is this has to be some trend-led, celebrity-led? How do we make this very, very happening globally? I don't know how quinoa became a thing here in India. I don't know how kale became a thing here in India, but somehow it did. I'm trying to reverse the model.
So, exactly. So most of the people follow celebrities, right? And what we have to do is follow athletes. So that is what is required right now. And when we talk about how to become healthy, it is some of the foundational movement, some of yoga movement, some of the foundational movement that we do in daily life, and increase the intensity.
So it's not Popeye. It's not Popeye. We need the Salman Khans and the Shah Rukh Khans to come and say, have palak. Okay, the palak is the key to my energy. Okay, we need that happening. Okay, Ramya Chatterjee, we just left off when we took a break. I was talking about ecosystem, right?
Yes.
That's the situation right now. What is an ideal situation? Because we have so many of these conversations. I repeat, when it comes to hardware manufacturing, we don't make the chips here in India. Okay, eventually the core line will have to be bought from somewhere else. So what's the basic push that you entrepreneur at your level you can't solve, that really requires some very, very high scale, either eccentric, crazy people, investing billions of dollars and sending their car to Mars, or the government saying, no, we need to get these basic industries sorted out?
Okay, so over there, things are not like that, what it was there in the past. As I told you, like, we innovated one technology, it's called Iris, and the technology we have actually given to multiple Fortune 500 companies across the globe. Using that technology as a core, they have developed their own product and they have supplied to their respective customers.
Okay.
So, see, one initiative government took a few years back, it's called Make in India. I think the next revolution is required, it's called Innovate in India.
Damn right.
Okay. It's not only setting up an assembly line, creating employment. Fine,
Okay, so give us an example. How much R&D do you do? How much R&D do you do? Are you R&D led, or are you saying, okay, here's the tech already out there, our job is just to implement that tech, that's it?
No, we do a whole lot of the core development, both hardware as well as software. It's happening over here in India. We have got two setups, one in Noida, one in Bangalore. The complete, the software part of it, a hardware part of it, as well as the platform we are developing over here in India and offering and catering to the global
so that's a
customers.
yes. So yes, you are doing a lot of innovation and R&D on your own. You're not saying, okay, this is the best technology available globally, I'm just applying it in India because it's not available in India. Okay, great. 3D printing is a solution. I see a lot of people importing 3D printers. Somebody needs to be making them here at scale. Pradeep Basu, my same question to you. What's your vision, right? Are you guys doing the algorithmics yourself? Are you hoping that one day you will be sitting with an Indian satellite manufacturer and designing a satellite to your specs, that guys, I need this kind of resolution or this kind of infrared, and this is what the sensor I need in my satellite to help my algorithm and my deep learning work better? Where is the vision for you guys?
Absolutely. See, we do all the algorithms in-house. Indeed, we have filed for patents as well here in India. And,
cheers to you.
Yeah, moving forward as the ecosystem matures, there is already a lot of this startups who are building satellites, like I mentioned, Pixel, Dhruva Space, who come to people like us and gather the requirements on the repeativity, on the spectral bands, like you mentioned, infrared, etc., on the spatial resolution, because it's all finally demand driven. What kind of demand is there in the market? So if you look at the entire value chain of space industry, the upstream part, which is the launches and satellites, are supply driven, manufacturing led, whereas the downstream part, which is companies like us and Liberate, are demand driven. So it's something which will evolve very fast.
So primarily, your primarily source footage is coming from Indian satellites, or are you still having to go to foreign companies, which have a lot of these high resolution imagery, or is it a bit of both?
It's a bit of both here, because you have to, as a commercial company, meet the SLAs that you set with clients. You're a B2B company. So, and it will always be both, because space is a global thing. It's not just
okay. So let me reverse the question. Let me reverse the question. That in the time that you've been working, are you seeing that within India, the photograph providers, whether they're coming from ISRO or they're now private players, that the quality and the scale and the ratio is improving so much that actually it is effective to you because you have to get the best possible image at the best possible resolution? Are you seeing that changing?
Yes, absolutely. We are seeing that changing, and there will be one more aspect in the best possible time. So a lot of the changes, regulatory changes, are helping.
Okay, what do you make about NAVIC? Are you guys heavily reliant on what would be GPS positioning data? Is NAVIC changing the way you guys are working?
Absolutely. Both NAVIC as well as Gagan, which is another ISRO developed system for aviation, both are very...
Pradeep, sorry, I think we just lost you for a second. Can you hear us?
It's a system.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead. We lost you for a second. Go ahead.
Yeah. So as the system matures, both NAVIC and Gagan, when I say system, not the satellite, but also the receivers, the ground receivers, miniaturize this. I think it would make India completely self-reliant on all kinds of location services, not only defense aviation, but also civilian applications across supply chain, land and sea transportation.
Okay. So yeah. I mean, there are a lot of guys, and I'm so happy to see you guys coming and innovating. And of course, ISRO is everybody's hero in the country, as they well should be. Do we need, Pradeep Basu, eccentric billionaires sending their car to Mars to really make this a very, very vibrant, really kicking sector? Do we need our own people, or do we need Elon Musk to come here? Pradeep?
I think we can have our own Desi Elon Musk, but we all come with our Indian mindset.
Who would that be, Mr. Basu? If you had to pick your Desi Elon Musk, who would that be?
Who owns a Fiat that they want to send to Mars? That has to be that person.
Right now, I don't think any person in this industry is that eccentric. We are all, at the end of the day, rooted to our motherland, our values, and we'll
No,
probably
but
set the motto
eccentricity is a
on
great thing. You know, you're surprised how much
footsteps.
eccentricity gets you. Okay, just a quick word with Rohit. When we're looking at innovation, when we're looking at grand things, I say eccentricity in the same way as a person with the name of Tata who said, I want to build Asia's largest steel and iron foundry in India. And everybody laughed at him that this is not possible. Went to the Americans laughed, the Brits laughed, finally got his technology from Japan, and he built Jamshedpur, and the rest is history. You need somebody who's got a really big plan to shake things up, and then the entire industry evolves around that. Rohit, in innovative industrial spaces like you are, how much is small measures good enough, organic growth, and how much needs to be mind-blowing exponential growth?
I think it's more about, looking at it from a different perspective, which is, this particular plant has 25,000 products that can be made from it. So, if I may, roti, kapda, makan or dawai, four things that a person needs is available from this plant. What other miracles are we seeking, right? And that's the premise, I think, that, everybody should take forward. Apart from, talk about, the climate change and all these environmental things we talk about. So this particular plant and all the products that get made from it are actually carbon neutral, carbon negative, in fact. So these are the things that people need to really put forward.
Okay.
And when we talk about the organic growth is slow, yes, but it is a definitive growth as opposed to, just spending money XYZ places and getting that initial
Okay,
traffic.
great. So you guys are doing it organic and not just thinking of top line, and Anuragji loves to talk about this. So very interesting developments are happening globally. One is extreme high tech and the other is extreme low tech, where we now want to buy bamboo made toothbrushes because they're more economically friendly, and then one makes you wonder why did we give up the neem in the first place, Dant Manjan in the first place. We're all going back in that regard. I've been talking about a German company that has patented the patta wali plates. I remember going to melas when I was a kid and getting the patte wali plate. Apparently the German patent on it now. Unbelievable. Anuragji, we have 10 minutes left, sir. Back to you.
Thank you. There's been a fascinating discussion, and Rohit, dare I say, the hemp economy also augurs well for the agriculture economy. These are early days. So, again, it provides employment to the bottom of the pyramid, and it really makes us Atmanirbhar in a real way. Let me ask you two questions to each one of you. I want specific and short answers. First, when do you see the economy coming back in full bloom? 6 months, 12 months, or 18 months? And do qualify your answer. Why? Second, what's your one top lockdown lesson? Something that has changed in your wiring, in the way you operate as an entrepreneur, that will hold you in good stead throughout your journey. So let me start with Prateep, go to Ramya, Rohit, and finally Rishikesh. Prateep, one, when do you see the economy coming back in full bloom?
Well, I would say not before 18 to 24 months, and it takes a lot of time to recover from the big shock that we have. So that's my short answer.
And why elaborate on it, build on it? Why do you think it will take big time? Give us your qualitative assessment.
Right. So if you look at the sectors which are driving the economy, whether it is infrastructure or agriculture, most of them have seen the sharpest negative growth in the last 2 quarters. For example, infrastructure saw minus 42%. So there is loss of jobs, there is loss of cash flows. That is making also lending to these organizations difficult, which is obviously impacting the banks as well. So there has to be a lot of government-driven capital infusion in order to rejuvenate the economy, especially the sectors which drive the economy. I believe among everything, agriculture is a bright spot, and the government's move to invest more in agriculture, exports, and deregulating the local markets is a very important move. At the end of the day, a lot of revenues was service driven. It was not knowledge and innovation driven. Let me put it bluntly. So I think COVID has been a good shock for most of the service driven IT companies to invest more into products, into more IPs, and that I believe is not a sudden change. It's a gradual change that will happen.
And what is your one top lockdown lesson?
Always keep your customer, keep your employee and customer safety and their empathy at the top of your mind.
So physical security, cleanliness, and emotional security of your customers and employees is top. I mean, it's very basic, and we've known this all along, but it's taken COVID to kind of remind us of this basic hygiene factor. Ramya Chatterjee, when do you see the economy coming back in full bloom? And what's your top lockdown lesson?
Okay, I'll start with the lesson first. So, two lessons I would like to mention. Why Plan B is very important.
I have a different view. If you have a Plan B, you will always never succeed at Plan A. When you don't have the option of having a Plan B, but I understand what you're trying to say is be agile, make decisions fast, adapt fast, come up with new ideas. That's what you're essentially saying when you talk of Plan B. Go ahead.
The second one is like, if you can deliver out of your comfort zone, you will excel at your bad times. So that is one learning. We have probably experienced, all of us. Those who could not do that probably cease their business. There are many examples as well. So coming back to the economic recovery part of it, now situation is complex. I mean, probably the sectoral analysis would be more, logical. So first and foremost, as far as our industry is concerned, government should focus, needs to import less and export more. So that net export, goes drastically up. That will add to GDP. Definitely boosting and incentivizing the MSME segment would be very critical. So at current point in time, one critical parameter is, increased demand and purchasing power of consumer at the same time would be a challenging. So directly, indirectly creating employment and directly, pump money to boost economy would be a challenge the government needs to address.
So hence, when will the economy be back?
Maybe another 3/4. That's my gut feel.
So 9 to 10 months, okay?
Yeah.
Prateep Basu said 18 to 24 months, you said 3/4, which is 9 months plus. Ramya Chatterjee, you may be right. My hunch is in the 6 to 9 months, the economy will be back. Only assumption is there is no second wave that is big and a vaccine comes out in the next 6 months. If that changes, then the timeline may be more closer to what Prateep has said. Rohit Shah, what's your sense of when the economy will be back in full bloom, and what's your top lockdown lesson?
I think what I think is 12 to 18 months is a safer bet, because we as individuals or we as human beings, are very adaptive. Like I remember the first time when lockdown happened, all of us were having conversations. What will happen next? Will we ever go to a restaurant? Will we ever, walk down the street freely and these things of this nature? But now,
will we get a haircut?
Yeah.
I do get it every 20 days, but not sure of all of you, but go ahead.
Absolutely. But, we are adapting, we are flexible, we are innovating. And, with the packages that the government is also helping, whether that's loans, whether that's moratoriums, whether that's, farmer supports, MSME supports, or, even working with manufacturing companies. So, boosting toy manufacturing or local for vocal. These things will definitely, evolve into a much bigger wave, bringing back everything to how we were, or much better than before. So that's what I feel. In terms of, the biggest lesson, for us, it was definitely, minimalism, as opposed to, going out there and spending
less
X amount
is
of
more.
things.
Less is more.
Absolutely.
Focus on the basics, focus on the essentials. These are the rules of minimalism. Thank you so much, Rohit. Rishikesh, you have the final word both on when the economy will come back in full bloom and what are your top lockdown lessons that other people on the broadcast can learn from.
Great. So I will divide this into two parts when I talk about the economy. The first part is the recovery and then the growth. So I believe if we have a strong second economic stimulus, which is around generating more demand, maybe to do something around the GST, some of the sectors cannot manage 18% and more than that. So if
we'll
there is
have
some
to bring out GST rates in certain product categories.
Yes. The entire demand should increase.
Long-standing demand of lots of industry associations lots of big players, and they've made a very potent and a coherent case for bringing down, because the increased economic activity will actually lead to more losses in the immediate term, not even in the medium and long term. So
Yeah,
I
very
might agree with you. Go on.
Right. Yeah, so and India has been known for the kind of demand which gets generated in October, November, and December. So this is the peak time when some kind of reform should happen. And if that happens in the next
there is IPL happening, and then there is the wedding season.
True, very, very true. So I see recovery in 3 to 6 months, and post that I see growth. So if you talk about some sign of growth, I see 12 months. But a lot of it depends on how we manage the demand side of it in the next 3 to 6 months.
You know, since we talk of both demand and supply, when initially in March and the lockdown happened, there was an issue with the demand because of the fear factor. There was an issue with supply because of disruptions of supply. And the government, when it gave the first stimulus, didn't want demand to come back immediately. Because in certain categories, demand coming back would be a violation of the lockdown. But now, possibly with caution and cautious optimism and all the balances, checks and controls in place, the government possibly would give a demand stimulus. And in my view, the only way to do it is three. One is increase government spending on public infrastructure. Second, in my view, the government should go out and print currency notes. It's not the time to pander to rating agencies. We're fundamentally the best economy in the world. And third, dare I say, we have to improve our sovereign rating. We cannot tell as a government or in part of the government that, there is a force majeure. And, in 1991, when there was a crisis in economy, we sold our gold to make sure that we made our commitments good. And that took India's position up in the economic ladder. And just to share with all of you and all our viewers, if you have your India debt on your sovereign debt, if you have India debt on your balance sheet, it's supposed to be a good debt, the best debt, so your ratings are better. So I think if we don't keep our commitments good, the rate at which we kind of borrow money as a state will go up by at least 1 to 2 basis points, if not 4 basis points. So in my view, the way to bring back the economy is increase public spending, print more currency, and bring back the confidence in terms of India's ability and capability to pay and consistency in policy. That's what I would say. Back to you, Rishabh.
Okay, so we've run out of time. My thanks to everyone joining on the broadcast. But all of you watching out there, if you happen to run a school or know somebody who's running a school, then you need to be reaching out to Ramya Chatterjee and Cybernetics. A good time, if the schools are not functioning, good time to upgrade the infrastructure and get in all these smart whiteboards. Or sorry, I'm not supposed to say smart whiteboard. And of course, if you're running a company and could use satellite imagery and all the algorithmic and deep learning that is coming out of satellite imagery, there is so much work going on over there. Then you need to check out Sat Shore and Pradeep Basu and his team, what they're doing. Please go and buy some hemp products, and if you can buy them from Hemp Horizons, great. No, it's not a drug, so don't worry, you will not go to jail. You can buy a hemp rope and drink hemp milk. There are completely different categories. Maybe Rohit needs to work on that communication strategy as well. And of course, if you're into fitness, Rishikesh Kumar and Extra Living, do check them out. Always read Business World,
especially
and especially and Anurag Batra, I promise you, does not just do Business World. He runs a lot, including Exchange for Media. So check them out online. And thanks for watching NewsX.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.